Everyone has, at some point, glanced into the corner of their room and thought they saw something, just for a second, move where nothing should. A flicker, a shift in light, a shape where there was none. You brush it off, blame it on exhaustion or your imagination. But what if it wasn't your mind playing tricks? What if something really was standing there, watching, waiting for you to turn your back? Harper Green had always been obsessed with ghost hunting. As the co-host of a rising paranormal YouTube channel, she was no stranger to haunted hospitals, abandoned prisons, and deep woods legends. She chased shadows for a living, never really expecting to find one that chased her back. It was an unlisted farmhouse on the outskirts of Amherst, Massachusetts, that began her descent into true horror. The house wasn't well known in the ghost hunting community, no viral TikToks, no creepypasta lore. But a strange email caught Harper's attention. It was brief and anonymous. The shadow in the east bedroom doesn't belong to anyone alive. Don't turn around when you see it, please. At first, Harper assumed it was a fan trying to bait her into a scare. But something about the wording, so desperate, so final, gnawed at her curiosity. She called up her camera guy, Mason, and they made the drive out the following weekend. The house itself was ordinary. 2 stories, weather-worn siding, and a half-collapsed barn out back. The windows were mostly intact, but so dusty that the sunlight fought to get through. As they crossed the threshold, Harper felt the air thicken like she was walking into syrup. No electricity, just flashlights, a handheld camcorder, and the hum of distant wind threading through the trees. They began their routine: EMF readers, temperature checks, EVP sessions. A few minor anomalies, spikes in the kitchen, a cold patch near the base of the stairs, but nothing unusual for a place left to rot. Then came the east bedroom. The door creaked open, revealing a room that still bore the faint outlines of a life once lived. An iron-frame bed, a toppled dresser, faded wallpaper peeling in strips like old skin. And shadows, deep, unnatural ones pooled in the far corner, despite the lack of anything that could cast them. Harper stepped inside, camera rolling. The moment she crossed the threshold, her chest tightened. A pressure settled on her spine like someone standing too close. Mason hesitated in the doorway, visibly disturbed. "This room feels wrong," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Harper ignored him. She scanned the room, then stopped. Something moved in the corner of her eye. A shadow. It didn't shift like light, it pulsed. She turned quickly. Nothing. "You saw that, right?" she asked. Mason didn't answer. He was pale, eyes locked on something behind her. "Harper, don't move." Her blood turned to ice. "What is it?" she asked. He raised the camera. The lens pointed past her shoulder. "There's a shadow behind you, but nothing's casting it." Harper felt the hairs on her neck rise. Her breath caught in her throat. "I'm turning around," she said. Mason's voice cracked. "Don't." But instinct is a cruel thing. She spun on her heel. Fast. The room was empty. Except for the shadow. It lingered just a second longer than it should have before vanishing into the far wall, like it was slipping through skin. Harper turned to Mason. His eyes were bloodshot, tears streaming down his face. "It looked at me." That night, they left early. There was no big climax for their video, just a quick outro and an excuse about technical issues. But Harper couldn't sleep, not because of what she saw, but what she brought home. Conclusion. 3 days later, Harper noticed it again. She was editing the footage, pausing frame by frame, trying to convince herself the shadow was a camera trick, a trick of dust and light. Then, in the reflection of her laptop screen, she saw it, behind her again. A tall, lean silhouette, still, watching, waiting. She turned around, nothing. But the next night it was closer, and the night after that closer still. until finally she realized something truly horrifying. Every night it wasn't that the shadow appeared closer, it was that it never left. It had followed her from that house, through her car, through her door, into her bedroom. And now, every time the lights dim or she blinks too long, she feels it, the weight on her spine, the cold breath at her ear. There is a shadow in her room, and it's not hers. She can't see it anymore, not fully, because now it's behind her. She wants to turn around. She needs to. But the email was right. You've seen it before, haven't you? That shape in your room when you're supposed to be alone. You tell yourself it's nothing, a trick of the light. But what if it isn't? What if it's waiting for you to notice it? Tonight we begin with the story of a ghost hunter whose curiosity led her somewhere she should never have gone. This isn't just a tale of shadows, it's a warning, because the last shadow in your room might not be yours. Rain pelted the windshield in rhythmic bursts as Elise Dalton steered her black SUV down the winding back roads of northern Vermont. An amateur ghost hunter turned popular online investigator, Elise had built a modest following for her no-nonsense approach to the supernatural. She was methodical, skeptical until proven otherwise, and determined to find out what really lingered in the dark. This time, the coordinates led her to a two-story farmhouse surrounded by acres of skeletal forest. Abandoned since the 1980s, the Crosswell residence had become local legend. Neighbors told of lights flickering in the upper rooms at night, and more disturbingly, of shapes in the windows, shadows that didn't move with the sun, didn't leave when the house was empty. The air inside the house was dense and cold, as though it hadn't moved in decades. Elise's boots creaked on the warped wooden floor. Her camera rig blinked red, confirming it was recording. She swept her flashlight across the living room, dust-covered furniture, shattered frames, rotting curtains, all as expected. But then she saw it, a mirror above the fireplace. It wasn't the mirror itself that caught her attention, but the reflection. A tall, thin figure stood just behind her shoulder in the dim light. Elise whipped around, pulse spiking. Nothing. Just the empty room, silent except for the hum of her gear. She looked back at the mirror. Empty now. No shadow. She chalked it up to nerves, or maybe some trick of the light bouncing off the glass. Either way, she pressed on. The upstairs hallway was more claustrophobic. The air heavier. Dust hung like a fog, disturbed only by her movement. As she passed the second bedroom on the left, her EVP recorder crackled. She paused, a voice low and rasping, barely audible. "Don't turn around." Elise froze. Her mouth went dry. She played the clip back. Nothing, just static. She rewound it again, adjusting the frequency. Still, the warning repeated. "Don't turn around." Goosebumps raced up her arms. The hall suddenly felt colder, narrower. She glanced over her shoulder, instinct more than defiance. And again, nothing. No one behind her. But the air felt wrong. She opened the door to the room, a child's bedroom. Faded wallpaper of cartoon animals, a toppled rocking horse in the corner, a broken crib still holding a mold-covered teddy bear. Her camera flickered, then died. In the black screen's reflection, a tall shadow loomed behind her. Not just in the mirror now, but on the walls, cast by no light source. She spun around, still nothing. But this time, when she looked back at the camera, the shadow remained, even though she was facing the direction it should have come from. Suddenly, all the doors in the hallway slammed shut at once. The sound echoed like gunshots, shaking dust from the ceiling. Elise backed into the bedroom, heart hammering. The EVP recorder in her pocket crackled again. This time, not a warning, a question. "Why did you look?" She shut the door, pressing her back against it. Her hands trembled as she reached for her backup flashlight. The beam flickered, struggling against a creeping darkness that wasn't natural. It felt alive. And then, movement. In the far corner of the room, near the closet, the shadow emerged. It didn't walk, it didn't crawl. It slid across the floor like it was painted on the surface, growing longer, darker. The flashlight sputtered out entirely. Elise was plunged into pitch black. Breathless, she whispered into her mic. I see something. It's not human. I think it's watching me. I think it knows I saw it. A faint voice answered her in the dark, not through her gear, but from the air itself, cold, deliberate. Now you belong to it, she screamed. The flashlight blinked back to life for a second, and in that second Elise saw it fully. A shadow with no source, a figure as tall as the ceiling, slender arms, no face, its edges shimmered like heat waves. Then the light died again, and so did her voice. You ever get that feeling someone's standing right behind you, even though you know you're alone? What if I told you you're not wrong? Tonight, we dive into a chilling tale that begins with a curious ghost hunter and ends with a shadow that refuses to leave. A story that proves some things are better left undisturbed. Make sure the lights are off, because what's in your room might already be watching. It all started with a bet. Liam Harker wasn't your average ghost hunter. He didn't just chase legends, he dared them to follow him home. His channel, Paraspector, had exploded in popularity thanks to his reckless courage and cinematic solo expeditions. But he was always careful, until Greystone House. Greystone had no recorded address. The only way to find it was by asking the locals of Brelling County, who refused to even point in its direction. It was said to be older than the town itself, a house that reappeared only when it was hungry for attention. Liam, of course, saw this as an invitation. The video started like his others. Night vision camera on, static crackling, voice confident. Welcome back, thrill seekers. Tonight we chase a legend that's chased everyone else away. They say Greystone House isn't haunted. It's alive. Let's find out. Inside, Greystone wasn't abandoned. It was preserved. Dust hung in the air like it was suspended in time. Furniture stood untouched. A teacup on a table still cradled dried, cracked liquid. Wallpaper peeled like curling skin, and the shadows were wrong. Liam pointed his flashlight at the grand staircase. Shadows clung to the walls, but even after he passed, they didn't fall away with the light. They lingered as if observing him, following him. He joked nervously. Guess the shadows here got commitment issues. But there was tension in his voice. He started seeing things through the viewfinder he couldn't with his naked eye. A faint figure, tall, distorted, standing at the edge of his frame. Always at the edge, never in the middle. He checked his equipment. No heat signatures, no EMF spikes. But the cold, it settled in like breathless fog. That's when he noticed the clocks. Every single one, from the kitchen to the mantel, had stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m., even though it was just past midnight. Then came the whisper, soft at first, like wind brushing old pages, then clearer. Don't turn around. Liam froze. He was standing in a narrow hallway with mirrors lining both sides. The whisper came again, closer. Don't turn around. He held the camera up, catching the reflection behind him. There was a shadow, not his, taller, featureless, standing less than a foot away. He turned. Nothing. The hallway was empty. He laughed it off, but it sounded hollow. Shaken, he left the house, swearing he'd return in daylight. The footage, once home, looked normal, except for one detail. Every time Liam turned to face the camera, a faint shadow would linger behind him for a second longer than it should. Sometimes it waved. That night, as he edited, he noticed something strange. His own shadow on the wall behind him didn't match his movements. When he scratched his head, the shadow did nothing. When he stood still, it twitched. He stared at it. It stared back. Convinced it was fatigue, he went to bed. But sleep didn't come. Around 3:17 a.m., the air shifted. His room grew colder than it had ever been, the type of cold that didn't just touch skin, it settled inside you. He reached for his phone. Dead. Then he noticed something. There was a shadow on his ceiling, not on the floor or against the wall, on the ceiling as if someone stood on it. It loomed, stretched long and unnatural. It didn't move as he did. It watched, and then a whisper. "Don't turn around." He sat up slowly, sweat running cold down his back. There was a presence, undeniable, heavy, breathing where there shouldn't have been breath. He turned on the bedside lamp. It flickered, once, twice, then exploded, plunging the room into darkness. That's when he saw it. In the reflection of the darkened TV screen across from his bed, a figure stood at the foot of his mattress. Not a shadow anymore, something in between. Its face was obscured, blank, no eyes, no mouth, but its head was tilted as if curious. And still that whisper, "Don't turn around." But he already had. The screen went black. The next morning, Liam uploaded nothing. His viewers flooded the comments of his last video, asking when the next part was coming. But the channel stayed silent. That is, until the live stream.